If you recognize that video clip, you're probably a pervert. Welcome back, everybody, to Sexy Business Podcast. I'm Lewd Neko, and I'm here with my co-host, Spooky Dangerous.
Hello.
And as you can tell from that animation and the title, today we are talking about Zone Sama, early Flash porn games, and all of that good stuff. So to get it started, Spooky, what was your first encounter with Zone Sama like? How did she take your virginity?
I went back today, knowing that we were going to film this. I specifically went back and looked at the catalog just to kind of make sure. And the first one was the first Teen Titans release,
Classic.
which was with Raven. But at the time, a bunch of them were out, and I saw the first one, and I'm like, "Yo, this show's literally on the television right now." I am also a teenager. This is my favorite, superhero show or whatever. And then also now there's this really high quality porn content of it, and I'd never seen porn quality that good. Like even the 3D people stuff, right? A lot of the stuff that was easily and freely available in the internet did not have the good directorial quality that we have these days, or the good camera quality that we have these days. And to have like relatively 720p animated cartoon content that looks like it could have been on the television was kind of a big deal.
I remember thinking that as a kid. Like, I knew it wasn't actually aired, but I was like, did actual animators from the show work on
Is
this?
this real?
I was like 11, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the reason why we wanted to bring up Zone specifically in this episode, I swear to God, it was not just for clickbait, but I believe that Zone is one of the early dominoes that leads up to what we have in the Western porn game kind of arena. Because we have not only stuff like the cartoons, but there was actually games and stuff that Zone made as well. This was the one part I did not research. I just looked at the videos this morning, dick in hand, but also stuff like Rico Biker Girl and others short animation ones where you just kind of toggled the speed and stuff like that. And I believe there was a furry one with a wolf girl as well, which kind of like started to show what a high quality standard you could be setting in this arena. And only since then, like we've had more developments and more stuff like that. But being able to take frames from the show and then add animation to it that made it feel really flawless and really seamless was something that we had really never seen before, and really, really got big. And then obviously more recently than Teen Titans, we came back with the Animal Crossing one, Anchor, which blew up. The original song, Camel by Camel, from that clip on the official YouTube upload has the comments disabled now, but for a brief period of time, the comment section was flooded with people like, son, this song is a banger, but how did you come across this rare 80s gem and stuff like that, which was a gold mine for a short period of time. But what about you? What was your kind of introduction into Zone?
So I never used Newgrounds that much, except for like I think specifically for Ego Raptor because I was a fan of him.
Ego
Like
Raptor was
back in the
great.
day.
My favorite one is the damn it, it's the Godzilla type movie. I'm really blank. Cloverfield, the Cloverfield parody.
Yeah.
That one just so hit the tone correctly.
Yeah, it was like him and like a couple of like other like parody, like there's like a lot of like Nintendo like parodies and like silly little Flash animations and stuff like that. And then I think at the time you didn't have to have an account to see adult content.
No.
Because like I didn't make an account when I was younger. I had to make one recently because I was like, oh, I need to go back on Newgrounds, and I had to make an account to view the adult content, which is kind of funny. And I think that's how I stumbled across it, as I was like, oh, that's a cartoon I recognize. Oh my God, there's boobs. Like, I don't remember what my first one, although like I have really strong memories of the Motherfuckers one for some reason, even though like that wasn't a cartoon that was ever like actually released. Like I think it was a pilot only or whatever. I really remember like the tentacles in it and like that stuff because I think a lot of people their tentacle like origin story was because of Zone. I've talked to like a lot of people about it, and if they mention they have a tentacle fetish, I'm like, okay, it was either a very specific hentai or you saw Zone on Newgrounds. I also remember the Schoolgirls one very vividly, especially because she did the collab, like the official collab with Skullgirls. So it was pretty cool. Like I
Okay.
remember the announcer's voice in
Mm-hmm.
particular. It seemed like very official. And then the other one, because like I also went through the catalog to be like, okay, what was all the stuff she produced? Was the Twilight Princess one, because I was a big fan of Zelda.
Mm.
Um, what was kind of fun is as I was playing it, I discovered there's like a bunch of like Easter eggs and scenes I had never seen because you had to like, click a specific, order of buttons or do a certain amount of scenes. You get like there's one where Midna takes on Wolf Link. I was like, whoa, I did not
Huge.
remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of things. Okay, on that, you and I are still getting into each other's rhythm, but you do this thing where you say something. I'm like, yes, oh, exactly, perfectly. I want to add this tiny little comment to it, and then we fly right past, and I'm like, hang on a minute. Now I am lost.
See,
Um,
my problem is I'm an introvert IRL, so I never have people to talk about this stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's
True.
info dump time.
Well, that's it. And because a lot of this kind of content isn't necessarily super freely or comfortably talked about, it is hard to, have that kind of moment. But what I did want to say, I think it was funny about the tentacles thing, um, because as a Western person, I'm incredibly white. I don't know if that's clear. My avatar does not look like me as a character from one of my games, I should clarify. A lot of tentacle stuff is usually in Eastern content. And Zone was definitely one of the first ones, but there's also a really niche movie, which was the first time I really saw it in the mainstream, and it wasn't like I saw it in a movie, not like in an animated thing from my own browsing. It was a movie called Super, which is Rainn Wilson plays the lead, where he tries to be a superhero, where he just beats people up with a wrench. It's incredibly fucked up, but he has this weird moment where he's watching tentacle hentai on the TV, and he's like touched by God, and the
Oh
tentacle
my
touches
god.
his open brain, and he has an enlightened moment where he's like, I need to go and beat people with a wrench.
Okay.
So that movie is incredibly strange. But like you can imagine, where if that's the context that you're first experiencing this thing, you're like, oh, this is not an easy or comfortable way to experience this. Is something in my interest? Like, oh, that was weird. I put off this now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of funny how like I guess normalized tentacles as a fetish are now. Like it's still like weird to a vanilla person, but like I feel like if you talk to most like anime or gaming fans, like tentacles is seen as like, okay, yeah, of course you're into tentacles.
yeah, I think it's extremely Eastern media, and I feel like people that really do get into anime and that kind of content are way more open to it, which is interesting. The other thing, because I went back and I watched the Zone stuff today. I went back, I watched the three Teen Titans ones, and I watched. Man, I swear I have a brain today. And I rewatched the Anchor Zone one, and I watched there's an 18 and Krillin one from Dragon Ball Z, but it's only like 30 seconds. And the thing I noticed was that the Anchor Zone one is really the only one where the main character actually seems like they want to be having the sex. All the
That is
tentacle
true.
stuff, it feels relatively non-con. The 18 and
Although the
Krillin one is just him coming on her unconscious face. Um,
the motherfuckers one is interesting though because it starts as non-con and then like by the end of it the girl is like very kinky and like hypersexual and like if anything she's like forcing herself on like her
been
little companion at
awakened.
the end.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, oh, that's right. The other one was this Ghostbusters one I'd never seen before. And I watched it,
I think that
and
was one of her first.
maybe. Yeah, I watched the Ghostbusters one, and I got through the first scene with the first character, and I was like, okay, this is kind of the standard, Zone formula. And then I looked at the timestamp, and I'm 3 minutes into a 15-minute video, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like scrolling through, I'm like, wow, there's like actually like 20 more different creatures in this video, because she gets like taken into hell and like fucks a bunch of demons or ghosts or something. And it's like, wow. And it has like that same kind of arc where it like starts off with like, oh no, this is terrible. And then at the end, it's just like, I just want more.
I think that makes sense though if you think about like tentacles coming from a lot of like hentai, because a lot of like Eastern or like I guess Japanese culture specifically, like sexuality is like very like you have to say no before you say yes. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of discussion posts about like how like some people have even been like uncomfortable like trying to have sex with these like women, and they're like, oh no, don't touch me, don't do that, and then the guy will be like, oh okay, I'll stop, and they're like, no, that's not what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I can't be a slut and say yes. So there's like a lot of like,
Yeah,
you know,
that
Japanese
prudish
porn.
culture. Yeah. Which is weird because that's like a specific cultural thing, right? Where you're watching in, and like you say, like JAV and stuff like that,
Hmm.
where and it's especially immersion breaking because you know that this is an actress in a situation who is very clearly a career woman and is very clearly chosen to be here and is being paid to be here, is on set with the co-star and being like, no, 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 please, please, no, 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 stop, stop, and you're like, this is so confusing to me.
But yeah, I think another thing I really remember liking about, I guess specifically like more of like the interactive like games and Flash stuff she had back then. I keep using she, even though technically speaking, I should clarify, we don't know Zone Sama's gender to this day, so who knows?
I guess we go based on the avatar, right? Or the
Yeah, I mean,
mascot?
yeah,
Is
that's
mascot more accurate?
yeah, because Zone Tan's the mascot, Zone Sama is the individual, and they also
Right.
have like a VTuber Sona now, Zone Tron, which is like a robot,
That's cool.
and then they have like another one. I was looking into this on their Twitch, but she's voiced or performed by someone else, like a different
Oh,
like
okay.
actress or Twitter user. So I don't know what the situation if she just performs for Zone Sama, like as part of like some sort of deal or something. It was
I,
really interesting though,
I
because I had
imagine
seen them
Zone
streaming.
does want some kind of anonymity.
Yeah, definitely. I can understand that.
Because all they have currently is notoriety. But that
Although,
said, I did want to, and kind of why I thought this would be a cool video to do is that I do believe what I said earlier about it being a big introduction and why. Even going back to our first episode, right? We talked about how SFM developed a lot of the tools and stuff that we have now.
mm,
Zone, in the same way, kind of created such a big market that other creators were able to go, oh, I want to do this, and I want to be able to eat into this market. And in the same way, for a Kickstarter, for example, we talk a lot about how it doesn't matter how big the big thing is that's happening at the time. There's still room for you, the small person, because the big person that makes $1 million in the first day is bringing people to the platform and keeping the platform active. And Zone having content on Newgrounds just meant that there's users coming to Newgrounds to see this content, and 30 seconds into the video and they haven't blown their load yet, they're going to start scrolling and looking at what other content there is. And Zone can only put out so much stuff. Suddenly, there's room for other people to come in and start making stuff. And there was a lot of other great creators at the time, and a lot of
oh
other
yeah.
creators that have since then come back and started releasing content on Newgrounds as like a demo, and then has like a full version on Patreon, and does the same for like a lot of other places like Itch and stuff like that. So there's
Mm.
definitely like a for me specifically, some kind of timeline of was experienced to Teen Titans Hente as a teenager and to now a full game porn game dev.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier because something else interesting about like the Zontan mascot is like she's technically one of the earliest loot tubers because
Mm.
you know, they had that podcast or like talk show they did where Zontan would talk about like a random sexy topic and answer fan mail, and you know, she was performed by some voice actress or something like that.
Mm.
But you know, they had the little sprites and they would make her change like expressions, and I think they animated her and stuff like that, which is technically VTubing. It was just like VTubers didn't exist back then, but technically speaking, that would basically be VTubing. So,
It's
and I
kind of
remember
cool
like
conceptually.
yeah, I remember really being like weirdly inspired by Zontan growing up because you know I was like a weird fetishy little kid. Like I wanted to cosplay her at one point, and I thought like it was so cool that there was like this like sexually liberated tentacle obsessed like mascot character. I was like, ah, I want to be like that someday, and now I am. So I guess I fulfilled my dreams.
Yeah, there
Pack it
definitely
up.
is a lot of tentacle stuff. Actually, okay, ready? Fun mini game. We have to try and guess what fetishes Zone has. Tentacles is
I
easy guess.
Yeah, I feel like bukkake Because like I
Definitely.
remember
Yeah.
that's
Everyone's
very common.
bloody buried in cum
Just come
in these
everywhere.
videos. Probably some form of con, non-con.
Yeah, definitely. It feels almost like DubCon, which is sort of like non-con's like lighter like
Yeah.
sibling, where it's like okay, they at the beginning they don't like it, but they kind of enjoy it by the end. Don't worry.
Also, maybe power play because there's a few of them, like the
Mm.
Jinx and um, again blanking the robot guy from Teen Titans. Wow,
Oh fuck if I know.
I
I
called
literally have
myself
never
a
seen Teen
fan.
Titans.
Oh,
I like learned about it because of Zone. I was like, who are
who
these
dis? Yeah,
characters?
but like Jinx, the female character, starts out making all the moves. She's clearly in control. She has the
Mm.
character itself has like a weird control magic type thing. And then after using that on him, he's like turns to a state of the oh no wait actually now I'm in control, now I am really into this actually, and I'm now making all the moves and doing all the stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think power play is on the list there. Maybe furry as well. Surely.
I I mean like yeah, there is like the Wolf Link scene in the Twilight Princess one, which that's like technically like feral furry, which is like even its whole other thing.
Mm.
I feel like I don't know if comedy is a fetish per se, but
Comedy.
like comedic porn definitely has like its own like little subgenre, and I remember that's something I kind of enjoyed about her animations is like I think of like the Foster's Home one as being like it's extremely comedic because Blue is like this blob of a character, so obviously you wouldn't expect him in a sexual scenario,
Yeah,
especially not with Frankie, who like everybody had a crush on, you know,
for
hot
sure.
babysitter
Definitely,
type.
definitely waifu.
And they also use like the audio from the series, which is pretty funny. They take like a bunch of like out of context like lines and clips that work
Mm.
together, which I remember enjoying because like that was one of my favorite cartoons. I was like, "Oh, I recognize that."
Yeah, so okay, I've actually just opened up the listing here. I was right about Rico Biker Girl, but there's also Liru the Werewolf, which I guess counts as furry. There is literally something
Furry light.
titled Furry Hentai Game Demo. That's got to count. Um, and then let me switch over to the movies. I guess Anka, right? Anka counts as
Oh
furry,
yeah.
surely. That
Oh
is a
yeah,
cat.
yeah, yeah.
And probably monster fucking as well.
Oh
I think there's
yeah,
a
because like
distinction.
yeah, because like tentacles are usually attached to some sort of monstrous creature, or at least something
Yeah.
that's not human.
Yeah, well, and the Ghostbusters one as well. It's got
Mm.
several demons and ghosts and creatures and stuff. So that's it. That's it. We've conducted our investigation and we accuse Zone of being guilty of many different perverse interests.
Guilty of being
Sentenced.
based as fuck.
Yeah, for real. But like that's the thing. Like a lot of this content and like no one is wrong for enjoying these kinds of things because the way that the media is expressed is in watching a video. Like a lot of this stuff you obviously can't perpetrate in real life. That said,
Yeah.
I have seen live action tentacle porn. It's
Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
weird. It's incredibly wet and puppet like,
Slimy.
which is a bit strange. But
There's actually a Western like specifically like all they make is tentacle porn. Hentide, I believe, is the company.
interesting.
Um, but like
I'm
my
totally
problem
not
with
googling this right now.
right as it is all like paid content, so I've only seen the previews, but they're all like very much framed as horror to me. Like it
Oh,
is like a little scary. Like the girls are very distressed. I feel like, which and not like in the cute like oh no my panties, but like in the like oh she looks legitimately scared. So it's more like Alien the movie if it was
right.
more sexual.
Yeah, instead of the alien queen, it's some kind of tentacle creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's one of those things that just kind of works better in either, you know, animation or drawn art and things like that than because real life it just kind of always ends up looking a little weird.
Yeah, it's like a mechanical disaster, surely. It's got to be so hard to operate all of that puppetry and also the actress being able to understand what's also happening from these people. Because when you touch a person, you can feel all of their muscles in the move as they move around. And even with your eyes closed, you can get kind of an idea of how things are happening or whatever. Or if your nose is touching their pelvis. But when it's the disembodied puppet, it's really difficult to kind of know. Anyway, I feel like we've gone off on a
I mean,
tangent
I
a
feel
little
like
bit.
this is still on topic. I mean, for me, it's like, because like one of my things is like, I never really enjoyed live action porn. I tried it out, throughout high school, and the closest I ever got was like I enjoyed some cosplay porn because I
Mm.
particularly liked the character, especially like a lot of the JAVs where they actually have like a bit of a storyline to it, or like the person tries to stay in character, and I liked that.
Yeah,
But
that's one of the things that I
mostly,
struggle with as well. I'm a comics reader,
mm,
and I really like being able to follow through what's happening. And a lot of companies that I've started seeing recently that have the higher production quality are trying to front load some kind of weird story, but in like a TikTok clip kind of way. So it's like I have 60 seconds to introduce you to all of these
oh
characters
God.
and then get to the action. And for a lot of them, it's actually incredibly funny because the circumstances is like, oh, let me describe one in particular. It's like two people are playing basketball. One of the actresses completely unloads from her top, and while trying to defend like the hoop, I guess a shot or something, and then the shooter, um, then realizes that that's what's happened, and then tries to pull some kind of a foul or a penalty or whatever. I swear to God, I understand basketball. And then the referee puts him into a penalty box, and the penalty box is basically a porn set. It's just a bedroom and with a bed and no other furniture. And then they start to, be in the scene, and the referee comes back and goes, "Oh wow!" And then like that's like that whole introduction, right? Is like this is two people playing basketball, and the referee also exists. Okay, now here's the pornography. Like,
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's drawn me towards fan fiction, visual novels, porn games, whatever else, is because even if it's like an image of a character from a series you like, you have this greater attachment to it because you're like, oh, I know that character from that thing.
mm,
She's my waifu, he's my husbando. They have this dynamic, like whatever it is, and that just always made the porn like way more interesting to me. And
yeah, it
then the other thing
adds
is like,
lore to the character, right? A depth that you
yeah.
apply to them.
And then the other thing is like what you said about like tentacles is like a lot of there's so many fetishes that just don't work IRL, like like
Mm,
vor. Like I also got into vor around this age because I found it on YouTube. It used to be all over the place. And that's one kinky, like you literally can't do it IRL. Like
yeah,
what is interesting is VR vor stuff is becoming really popular because that's like a really
interesting.
easy thing to do relatively.
Well, you get the
And I mean,
visual experience. You don't really get the physical experience, unless if you
yeah, I
have like
mean,
a roommate tie you up or something.
I know some people who like roll themselves up in blankets because it makes them feel like sweaty and stuff like that, like they're trapped.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of close. You roll yourself up in a blanket and get your roommate to put many belts around you, and then you put the VR headset on.
I mean, I'm sure someone's done it statistically.
Sound off in the comments if you've done exactly this scenario. I just so want to know if it exists. But on
Tell
that
me who your
topic of,
cool roommate is.
yeah, tell me about your roommate who's based as fuck. But on that topic of stuff that you just can't do IRL, basically our entire genre of work can't be done IRL. There's like no magical transformation. The elves obviously don't exist. A lot of the
Damn it.
body types and stuff that we have on our characters just don't fucking exist. All the stuff from Sleeve Shock is about a premise from Altered Carbon, where the body is relatively a tool and not actually your personhood, and they're
Mm.
called sleeves, and you can inhabit different sleeves, and you can have multiple versions of your own body for different tasks and purposes, and so how the sleeve is treated is different from how the person is treated, but like still modifying the one that you are stuck in is related to your personal image and stuff like that, and like what living in that world is like. Obviously that can't be done IRL, and obviously you can probably hear it from my voice, but I can't just magically transform into a big titty bitch and go around and be a bimbo all day. That
Damn
stuff doesn't exist. And if it did, you would be hearing very differently from me. It feels and I've said this before, but I've now shortened it to if there was one magic pill that made me a hot bitch, I would take it. Whereas before, people were like, "Yes, that's a thing, but it just takes a long time." Um, no, I'm impatient for that.
I mean, I'm waiting for the day we have like cybernetic animal ears and tails that actually move, with your
Hell yeah.
emotions and shit like that. Because there's the ones that are like mechanical and move, but they're so loud.
Yeah. Janky. All
And I mean,
right.
that's one of the interesting things about like how gaming has progressed obviously since like early flash games is now
Mm.
because we have better technology and better creators and more artists and things like that is there's so many games where you can pretend to be whoever it is that you've always wanted to be, like sexually or otherwise. Like Corruptions of Champions was like a game I played a lot, and part of my enjoyment was that you could be a girl in it. And like because like a lot of the
Wait,
games
say that
back then where
again.
you could
That's just so unheard of in a porn game to actually.
well, I'm gonna clarify because a lot of the games back then where you could be a girl were always like Riona or like women in very violent
Yeah.
scenarios. And while I was into that, sometimes I wanted to be on top. I wanted to win. And so I liked like Corruptions of Champions. I could be this like buff Fuda, half animal creature, whatever, and do whatever the fuck I wanted.
Mm.
The same way that people can play a visual novel and be a furry or a different gender or sexual characteristics or whatever it is that you want. And then especially as we're seeing with VR and how into avatar making people are getting and the kinds of games that are being created that let you step into sort of like whatever fetishy body you want.
Mm. Actually, have you seen a TV show called Maniac?
I have not.
So I believe it's still on Netflix, but it's Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, and the premise is that it's therapy through three major pills, but like each pill gives them this ridiculously shared dream adventure that goes insane. The show is actually fantastic, but it just reminded me of one particular scene from it where the disgraced inventor of the program is brought back to kind of like finish the thing, and they find him and they're like trying to depict him at his lowest low, and he's like in his apartment, he's wearing just a robe, he's got the VR headset on, and he's got like a pump on him. I can't tell how it's all kind of connected, but like they introduce you through the VR thing that he's experiencing, and you see his avatar, and he's like with an octopus woman and stuff. And I'm like,
it all comes back to
yes,
tentacles.
I know, right? But like that's the thing, like that for sure is definitely not something you could do IRL. Pretty much any furry stuff has definitely got to be hard. I don't know if a fursuit really truly conveys the experience that you're looking for there. I imagine most of these people don't have the wolfcock / horsecock / cloaca experience that they're looking for.
Yeah, and that with the fact of like you're wearing this heavy suit, so it's very taxing and sweaty.
Yeah,
and...
this is an Alaska only fetish, or
For real?
Arctic Circle only fetish. I feel that. Yeah, as an Australian, I think it's very difficult to be a furry.
Oh gosh.
But
And
that's
I guess to bring it all like back around, like I think one of the things I really remember enjoying about like not just Zone Sama, but like a lot of the Newgrounds games that came up after that, even the shitty like meet and fuck ones, is that I ended up experiencing a lot of like fetishes in a way that felt safer. I feel like because a lot of times you could kind of figure out like what you're in for, and
yeah,
then
it's
if
like
it's
a
a
tasting
game,
platter. You can always exit and then go and check out what the next option is. Whereas
yeah,
if you're
and if
being
it's a
tied up
game,
with
you can
rope IRL,
choose.
you can't just really bounce out that quickly.
No. Or like even like some of her flash games, like you could change things like the characters, like what they're wearing, or
Mm.
like there'd be like random little options that would just modify the game slightly, and
Yeah, it's
that's
very
also like
common for those types of games to have Fuda and non-Fuda versions for pretty much everything as
yeah.
well.
And it's such a simple addition to like a flash loop, but it really does give it that like extra level of control, which makes the experience like more enjoyable and replayable if you want to just experiment with it and see what you enjoy more.
Mm. But yeah, that does bring us to the end of our time. We are trying to keep these punchy little 30-minute type segments. I think this one was particularly interesting because I believe Zone is worth talking about. It is a prominent domino in the sequence of things that brought us to this point. And if you are enjoying the Sexy Business podcast, get down into the comment section. Tell us about your weird interests. We would love to hear about them. That's the point of this show, is that we can talk about these kind of stuff, the impact it has in games and animations and lewd tubing and stuff like that. So get in there, type a big essay, give us your big old list of what you're into, and while you're there, also hit the subscribe button. That would be cool too. And tell us what you think of our thumbnail. I spent so goddamn long arguing with this one about what we should put in it, and I would love to know that I am in fact based and correct. But that's it. We'll hopefully see you in the next one.
All right, bye everybody.